Hey, welcome everyone. Pinpoint Fishing with David Standards. Today is going to be about changing oil in your lower unit. I have a Mercury 115 horsepower EFI 4-stroke, and it's about that time to do our yearly PM maintenance. Some tips and tricks and how I go about changing oil in the lower unit. So let's get started. The thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the prop, and I'm going to bend these tabs to release this locking collar, so I can get this nut pulled out. So anyway, I'll show you how to do that. Gently pull these tabs up out of the slot. There's generally going to be about 3 of them. So we'll get a little closer look at that. So what I'm pulling out is this tab here. That's in between this groove here. So I'll just pull these 2 out. We're going to pull this one off. Or you can take a screwdriver too, it might help. Next, you want to remove the nut. I have modified this, put a socket in here because this was a little bit sloppy on the nut. And we'll put a block of wood. And once you get that nut out of that well, you should be able to hold the prop. My prop is not very sharp, but if your prop is sharp, you might want to wear some gloves. And once you get past that Teflon locking part on the nut, it comes off fairly easy. So that's that Teflon that once you go past that, gets on the threads, locks in place on them threads. Now we're going to remove the taining nut or the ring. Remove this bushing. Pull the prop straight up. And then while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and inspect, make sure I don't have no fishing line wrapped up around this. I have to tap that off a little bit. Always use a dead blow or something soft. Never use a hammer on your bushing stuff. There it goes. So looks fairly decent. I don't see no fishing line wrapped up in there. Looks fairly clean. We'll wipe it off here in a little bit. But anyway, so there's step 1. Now we're going to make room. I don't have a plastic catch pan, so I want something that's low profile. And I need to have this lower unit go all the way down. A regular oil catch pan is not going to work, but you need it to dump your oil in. So this is not going to work, but I'll kind of show you why. Let me change angles of the camera. All right, so what we want to do, we want to lower this trim down. We want this horizontal. So now you can kind of see that this will be kind of tough to catch the oil that's going to be running down here. So, move this out of the way. Raise this back up. catch pan underneath there. That should be good. So now we don't have any oil that's going to be hanging up here. Now it'll be all down. So we pull our drain plug out. Should be somewhere right here. Then I have 2 vent plugs, front and rear. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to pull this lower plug out. And we're going to try to hang on to it. And have you some towels and rags handy. Now what we want to do is go ahead and remove both your vent plugs. You got 2 up here. Once you allow that air to get in, and let the oil really start draining down. And also note you got little washers on here, so don't lose them and inspect them. Might be good to have some on hand if you see them cracked or busted. These look good. So we got front, rear, and it should be about 23 to 24 fluid ounces. While that's draining, we're going to be using a gear lube, Quicksilver, Mercury product, SAE 90 weight. And maybe I'm going to get this a little bit closer. So these are the 2 vent plugs I removed, and then the oil line right down there, oil plug I should say. Alright, so one thing I want to mention, while this was draining, I'm trying to keep an eye and make sure there's no water, no chips or anything. So evaluating the oil, I'm going to inspect again as a part. If you see any signs of metal shavings, that's a bad sign. You might want to start taking it to the dealership or investigating it yourself if you're mechanically inclined. So anyway, it's pretty much drained. I'm going to wipe this down. I've already took the liberty of cleaning parts. Kept my plug front, rear, and lower unit, so that way they go back in the same position. And so now we're about ready to pump some oil in here. So we're going to wipe this down. I'm going to raise that up a little bit. There to catch any residual oil. And now we're ready to get the lower unit hooked up with the oil and the pump. So as I bought this pump, that'll make life a lot easier than using the old tube and trying to squeeze it in the lower unit, lower case here. So anyway, we're going to open this out of the package and get this all hooked up. So just hang tight with me. Here's the adapter for the Mercury. This doesn't work, but the plastic one looks like it's going to be the correct thread size. They seem to match up. Problem is getting it threaded without cross threading anything. Alright, so that's in. Now I can put the hose back on. Alright, so now we're ready to hook this up to the oil container. Get this back down to level or horizontal. That looks pretty good. All right, so the goal is, according to the Mercury, the front, when you pump oil and fill it up, oil should come out this front. As soon as it starts oozing out, you put a plug there. And then you keep pumping until it starts oozing out here, and then you put the plug in here, and then we'll remove this and put the plug on the bottom. So by sealing these two off, it'll almost hold a vacuum, and that oil won't just be running out. Now it will seep out a little bit, enough time to give you put your lower plug back in. So let's give this a shot. I'll scoot this up a little bit closer. Maybe we can see a little better. All right, we got oil coming out. So we're going to take the front plug and make sure your gasket is still on there. It's a plastic gasket. And make sure it doesn't get cross-threaded. Always start it by fingers. Alright, I'm just going to just hand tighten it for right now. And I got to get another rag. Alright, so now we're going to take the rear plug, and then according to the Mercury directions, we should see starting to ooze out here, and then we'll put that plug in. Oh, there it is. All right, hand tight. So now for the tricky part, we got to be able to unscrew this and put the bottom plug in, and hopefully we don't lose much. And that's maybe why they have us go up to that next air vent. It's time to get this started. Oil level will probably be about the right level. All right, so here we go. All right, it was just a little bit of a mess, but it's still worth doing it yourself. A lot cheaper doing it versus taking it down to a dealership. All right, so now we can clean up the mess, and then I'm gonna go back and retighten everything hand tight. Don't want to over torque it, but I don't want them getting loose. And so anyway, not a whole lot to it. So after we retighten everything, wipe everything down, we'll go back, put lubricant on the shaft, and put the prop back on. So anyway, I'll pause the video for a bit. For the ease of installing prop, everything's wiped down and everything's ready to go. We're gonna take the trim and bring it up where it's a little bit more user-friendly for the installation. And then always use a lubricant on the spline. I think the Mercury is, I think they specify like a Quicksilver or Mercury Precision Lubricant 2-4-C with Teflon or Special Lubricant 101. I don't have that special grease, so I'm just going to use a light wheel bearing grease to keep everything from corroding, and it's doesn't get washed out by the water. It's what I use on my trailers, and it's some good stuff. Got a good coat of grease on it now. Sometimes it's going to be a trick holding this retainer ring in here, not letting it spin, but it's doable. So now we're going to run this down for a bit. Once that nut starts getting into this retaining ring, and then we'll have to be a little more careful as far as alignment wise. When that nut starts getting close to entering, I'll make sure everything is kind of lined up where I need it to. And then try to hold that ring with it so it stays lined up in the squares. Oops, I slipped a little bit. Line it back up. Kind of hold it with your hand, finger if you can with the wrench. All right. So I'm going to back off just a bit because we want at least 3 of these tabs to line up. I'm sucked all the way down, and now I'm going to back off just ever so slight. Back. Still not aligned, so I'm going to tighten up just a pinch. All right, so I've got that one to line up, that one to line up, and that one to line up. That's good. Now I'm just going to push these down in there. Take a screwdriver. If you don't have a dead blow, it's well worth getting one. We'll make sure these tabs are seated down in them grooves. And that is it. Not bad at all. So now I'm going to pour this oil into my oil reservoir, and then I'm going to inspect it one more time. But I don't see any issues. But I always want to be cautious. Alright, it's all good. No water, no filings. And we will just let that drain. Alright guys, well, it is humid. It's been raining outside, and man, it's humid in the shop. So anyway, the lower unit is done. Inspected prop, inspected make sure the seal, make sure there's no fishing line or braid line wrapped around, cleaned everything up. Lowered the lower unit to a horizontal position, drained all the oil, let it sit for a while, make sure as much as you can get out of the old oil. and then fill it back up with oil and lube up the shaft and put your prop back on, and you should be good to go. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope this helps you. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And I think the next one's going to be changing the oil out in the main engine, and then show you how to change out the water separator, high pressure and low pressure inline fuel filters. So anyway, this is part 1 of part 3, and so stay tuned. Enjoy. God bless.